Good morning, YouTube. I hope everybody is well. I'm just posting a video of my bike, the Royal Enfield Super Meteor. I just thought it was about time I did an actual review of the bike. I've owned the bike for almost a year and it's just had its 3,000 mile service, so I think I'm in a good position now just to share my thoughts and opinions of the bike. As you can see, my bike's been quite heavily customized just to give it the look that I was going for, and I'll talk more about the modifications and accessories that I've added at the end of the video. So the Super Meteor then is a long, low slung cruiser. Seat height is about 740 mil. It's 245 kilograms, 47 brake horsepower, and around 52 Newton meters of torque. That's more or less the stats. I don't really go into the stats that much. It's just basically how the bike rides and how it feels to me. I bought this bike at the beginning of January, so right at the beginning of the new year, rode it all the way through winter, and we're now in the summer in the UK. We're just coming out of a heat wave. So I've ridden the bike in all kinds of conditions. I've done long journeys, tours on this bike, commuting, weekend rides, just daily rides, and I can say that I'm very pleased with the bike. It's kind of a great all-rounder. So yeah, without any further ado, in a minute I'll just show you around the bike. As you can see, I've done quite a few mods to the bike, which I'll discuss towards the end, giving it a more bespoke look to me. Changed a few things, but what we'll do in a minute, we'll hop on board and we'll go for a little ride where I will talk about the bike in general, and how it's been performing and been behaving for me. So there we go. So what we'll do, we'll jump on board in a minute and we'll set off. Alrighty. Okay then folks, we'll jump aboard and we'll head out and we'll talk about this bike. So the temperature in the UK is cooling a bit this week. We've been up to 36-37 degrees. It's a bit cooler this week, but I'm told that the heat wave is due to return next week, so it's much cooler today. Temperatures will get up to about 24 degrees. Okay, jumping on. Okay guys, I'm 5'9", I'm about 12 stone, which is around about 70-ish, 73 kilograms. So I'm an average Joe, average height, average weight, middle-aged, and this is what I look like sat on the bike. I don't know if you can see down there, but sitting on the bike I can flat foot. Now it's a 740 mil seat height, which is quite low, but it's not the lowest for a cruiser. If you look at Harley Davidsons and your Honda Rebels and those kind of things, most of those bikes, Indian Scouts, that sort of thing, the seat height is around about 680 to 690. I think the Triumph Speedmaster is about 690, so they're much lower. Now this has got forward controls as well, which means that your feet are forward, such as there and down there. Okay, so it's not, although it's a low seat, it's not the lowest for a cruiser, and what I found is that this makes this bike extremely comfortable, because the trouble with the Indians and the Harleys, and I've had a few Harleys in my time, and I've ridden a couple of the Indians, with that low seat height, your legs, your backside is really low in the bike, but the foot pegs are quite high, so it means that your knees are kind of up here and up here, which is quite uncomfortable, I find. But with this, because the seat height is a little bit taller, not too tall, your legs sit below that 90-degree, so they're not up here, they're just naturally where they should naturally be. It's just a very natural seating position, with your feet kind of forward, and the forward controls, they're not all the way out there, they're just here, so that is very, very comfortable. And as you can see, I can stand up on the bike, and I can flat foot, so it is a very, very comfortable place to be ergonomically. The bars, I mean, I do have risers on this, but even stock, the bars, they come up slightly. I've just put risers on because I just wanted a little bit more rise in the bar. But for me, with the rise in my bar, my hands are naturally where I want to be, and my legs and my feet are naturally where I want to be. So ergonomically, very, very comfortable. All right, let's fire it up. Okay, I'll talk more about pipes at the sound as we go through the video. All right. So then folks, 47 brake horsepower. It's not a fast bike, but it's a quick bike. It's no slouch. For real world speeds, this is the sweet spot, this engine. It's got a fantastic engine. It'll easily get up to 70 miles an hour and beyond. There's no horrible vibrations. It's just a very, very enjoyable thing. It's got a lot of pull in the engine. You can squirt past cars if you need to. But for everyday riding, especially here in the UK where the speed limit is 70 miles an hour, this has got more than enough poke. Now, it's not super sport bike fast. It doesn't car through corners like a scalpel. But if you're like me and you've got a flowy riding style, this bike will effortlessly carve through bends. So we just take it down the A road here. And already we're up to 60 miles an hour, fourth gear. Very smooth. The fueling is brilliant. There's no snatchiness, no hunting, no surging. Just a very nice place to be. Like I said, I'm very comfortable. The engine's got plenty of shove. So this is not a performance cruiser. It goes, and it goes well, and it's pretty powerful for the size of the engine. but like I said, you're not going to be able to carve through corners. It'll flow and tip in through corners. Excuse me. But yeah, very nice indeed. So the engine on this bike really is the star of the show. Like I said, it's the sweet spot engine. Not too fast, not too slow, just right. I've never felt that this bike is underpowered. It's just got enough, and it pulls when you need it. Excuse me. Always happens when I make a video, I start coughing. Anyway, so fueling, very good fueling, very smooth. Throttle response, very natural, linear, progressive. There's no nasty surprises. Now this bike, if you want to ride quite spiritedly, will do it. You can get on it, but it's just as happy going quite quick as it is going quite slow in slow moving traffic. So no issues with the engine at all. Gearing on this bike, very good. Very nice gearbox. It snicks into place, nice positive clicks. You don't have what I would describe as a mushy shifter where you're not sure if you've actually shifted into gear. You do get a nice click when you go into gear. So again, that's all good. It's a very easy bike to ride. I'd say more or less anybody could hop on this bike and ride it. Although I wouldn't recommend this bike for a brand new rider, and I'll talk more about that in a little while. It's quite a heavy bike, 245 kilos, so not the lightest, but you don't feel that weight when the bike's moving. When the wheels are in motion, it feels quite light. The only time you really feel the weight is when you're pushing it around. Even going very, very slow into a tight car parking space, it's pretty easy. So handling, how does the bike handle? Well, for a big lump of metal, because everything on this bike is metal, like I said, it's quite heavy, it handles very, very well. It's got a 19-inch front wheel, 16-inch rear, and it does tip in and bank into turns quite nicely, quite effortlessly. Brakes on the bike, what are the brakes like? Well, the brakes are very good. I've got no qualms about the brakes at all. They are not the sharpest, best brakes I've ever had on a bike. They're not Brembos, but the front brake is quite good. It pulls you up, and the back brake is absolutely brilliant. The back brake is where this bike is at, and if you use brakes in tandem, brakes together, if you need to haul up quite quick, this bike does stop. So braking wise, I have no issues whatsoever. The
brakes are very decent, and that's the word I use. They're decent brakes. They're not the best brakes, but they're decent. You get a nice progressive feel through the lever. They're not grabby, they're not really bitey, they're just nice and progressive. And you feel, when you squeeze them, you feel a good kind of pinch in them, a good pull. So that's all good. Sound of the bike. When you get the bike in, when it's stock, it does sound quite nice for a stock bike, but I have put aftermarket pipes on mine just to give it a bit more bass, a bit deeper tone, and I'm very pleased with my choice. And I don't know if the mic that I'm using today is picking it up, but they're very nice sounding pipes. But overall, generally from stock, from the factory, it's a nice sounding bike. Comfort then. The stock seat on the bike I thought is very good. I'd never had any issues with the stock seat. I have changed my seat, but I've changed it more to do with aesthetics and style rather than comfort. The seat that I've got on the bike at the moment is a Sahara seat. It's the low slung solo touring seat. It just fits the frame of the bike really, really well. It's got a gel pad insert, and it's super comfy, and it wasn't very expensive either. And I just wanted something a bit more bespoke for me, so that's why I changed it. Not the fact that I had an issue with the stock seats. I just wanted a brown seat to start with, and a bit of a stitch pattern in my seat. So that's the reason why I changed it. Not to do with comfort or anything like that. Just the fact that I was going for a certain look with the bike. So ergonomically, comfy. Feet, comfy. Bars, comfy. I've ridden this bike for hours on a tour up to Wales and to the Lake District, and I had all day comfort. This is the most comfortable bike I've ever owned. It really is a comfortable place to be. So what type of riding can you do with this bike? Well, you could do everything. Although it's a cruiser, it's a good all-round bike. So I ride every day, you know, come rain or shine. The only time I won't ride is when there's snow and ice on the ground. But I've ridden this bike in the wet, dry conditions, muddy conditions, and it goes very, very well. I use this bike every day. I commute to work. I take it out on the weekend. I use it as my daily, and I've gone touring on it, and it does everything really, really well. It's a great all-round bike. There's nothing it doesn't do badly. The only thing I don't do is obviously go off-road, because it's a cruiser, it's heavy, it's low slung. But apart from that, it's brilliant. The clutch pull on the bike, I would say it's a medium pull on the clutch. It's not like some of the Triumphs that I've owned that have a really, really light clutch, but it's also not like some of the Harley Davidsons I've had in the past, which has got a really heavy clutch. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. I don't really get fatigue in my hands when operating the clutch, but there is a bit of pull to it, but it's nothing that you can't handle. It's very nice. So as you can see, the bike is just sweeping through these turns here. We're just sticking to some A roads for now. Very comfortable. Now, is the bike vibey? Does it have vibrations? Now, vibrations is a very strong word in my opinion. And no, there are no vibrations. There is a resonance, a kind of pulsing you get through the bike, but I wouldn't describe that as vibrations. You just get a nice resonance, a nice pulsing, which just lets you know that you're on a oil air cooled bike. And it's actually quite nice, very characterful. But I don't have pins and needles in my hands and my feet. There's no nasty buzzing through the bars or the foot pegs. It's just really, really nice. Speeds on the bike. Well, this bike will do 70 miles an hour and beyond, and it'll do it 70 miles an hour very, very comfortably. Once you get to about 80, you're kind of hanging on a little bit. I have had this bike up to 100 miles an hour, and you are hanging on, but it's designed to be a cruiser. It's designed to cruise. The slogan for this bike by Royal Enfield is cruising at its purest, and cruising is what it's supposed to do, and cruising is what it does absolutely brilliantly. Like I said, you can go quick on this bike if you want, and you can reach those higher speeds, and you know, up to 70 miles an hour is quite comfortably. You could go on the motorway at 70 and you've still got enough pull and enough torque to squirt past lorries and cars. You can ride this spiritedly, where you can go quite quick, but like I mentioned before, it's not super fast. It's not a fast bike, but it's fast enough for me, and for real world speeds it's absolutely brilliant. You don't really need more than this. I've never felt this bike is underpowered in any way. I've never wanted more power. The power's always there. So a tight roundabout like this, like I said, just lean it in and it's effortless. For a long, low slung cruiser, it does handle quite nicely. But you have to ride it like a cruiser. If you try and ride this like a sports bike, then you're going to find the limitations quite quickly, because it does have limitations. It does have the forward controls, so if you bank it in too sharply, you are going to scrape the pegs. But then saying that, I have leaned this bike quite far over. Well, it feels far over, and I haven't scraped. But if you've got a flowy riding style like I've got, then you're going to be alright on this. The forward controls do take a minute to adjust, but I think after a day or two I was absolutely fine. I did find myself, when I first bought the bike, wanting to put my feet underneath my hips, where on most bikes your foot pegs are, but now I've got used to it. The foot placement is very, very comfortable indeed. And like I said, I can go on this bike for a long time. I mean, obviously on any bike, and we're all different, we reach saturation point. So I like to ride for 2 to 3 hours and get off and have a coffee, have a leg stretch. But when you get back on this bike, after your coffee and your leg stretch, you're good to go. You're fresh as a daisy, which is a testament to the comfort on this bike. You are in a bolt upright seating position. When the bike is stock, you're slightly leaned forward with the bars, but I like to sit kind of upright and very comfortable. I do suffer with back issues because I'm an old man, but I don't get any back pain on this bike. So it's a great all-round machine. Now if you like the look of this bike and you like cruisers and you like a modern classic look, then this is a really good choice. Really good choice. Like I mentioned, it's not underpowered. It's got enough. If you're the kind of guy or lady that likes to accessorize and customize your bike, there's quite a good aftermarket support where you can buy things to add to your bike, do things, make it your own. So it's good in that respect as well. It's a very popular bike. Royal Enfield advertised this as their flagship bike along with the Bear. They're two flagship bikes, but I would say that this is slightly more premium than the Bear because everything's metal. Let's talk about build quality and fit and finish. So the build quality on this bike is brilliant. It's absolutely amazing, and the fit and finish is really, really good too. Now, I would not go as far as to say it's on the same level as Triumph. Things like their Bobber and the T120 and those kind of bikes, they're just a little bit nicer, but this isn't far behind. And Enfield have come a long way with their bikes over the last few years, and they're producing really good quality motorcycles, this being one of them. Everything on the bike is metal, as I've mentioned, and the fit and finish is very good. Like, I've ridden this bike all the way through the winter. I do look after my bike, I do wash it, I do treat it with certain things to try and preserve the quality of the bike. And yeah, riding through the UK in the winter with the salt-ridden roads, etc., you know, this bike has held up. There's not a spot of rust on it, apart from maybe one or two bolts which get corroded on any bike, especially if you ride through winter. But generally the main parts are very, very good indeed. You do feel like you're on something special when you're on this bike. It does make you feel like a bit of a boss, I've got to be honest. Now, I've owned Harleys and I've had Triumph Bonnevilles in my biking pedigree before, and I mean, they're lovely bikes, don't get me wrong, but this feels just as nice as those, and it's literally half the price of those bikes as well, especially the Harleys. I'm not sure what the price of this bike is now, but when I bought mine brand new, it was £6,500, which I think is brilliant. And it's a very easy bike to ride. There's no surprises with this bike. Everything is just linear, on point. So if you're worried about weight, don't. This bike's easy to manage. If you're worried about seat height, unless you're very, very short, you'll be fine on this bike. The only thing is, I would not recommend this bike for a brand new rider because it's quite heavy and you've got forward foot controls. I would probably get something else as a first bike, something a bit lighter. Learn your trade, learn your craft, become unconsciously competent in your riding where you don't have to think about what you're doing. Everything is just natural muscle memory, and then go and get this bike. But I'm not saying a new rider can't ride this bike, because they can. I just wouldn't recommend it, because anybody can ride this bike. So, am I pleased I've bought this bike? Well, hell yes, I am. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've had no issues with this bike at all. Zero. It had its first service at the 300-mile mark, and it's just had its second service at 3,000 miles. And it's been absolutely brilliant. I've taken this bike on a few long trips, and I haven't had a single issue, touch wood. It's been absolutely brilliant. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to head and go and have a coffee, where I'll pause the video, and then we'll get back on the bike and we'll talk more about what a superb motorcycle this is. I'm just trying to think if there's any negatives I have with the bike. There are one or two, but it's nothing to do with the mechanics and the riding and the way the bike performs. It's more to do aesthetically, visually. One thing, it does have a USB port, this bike, but it's underneath the seat, so that is a niggle. That's something I don't like about the bike. Living with it, as in pushing it around your driveway and your garage, that can be a bit of a chore, especially if your driveway, like mine, is on a slight incline. It can be quite heavy pushing the bike around. When it's on a flat road like we're on now, it's absolutely fine, but if you've got sort of gravel on your drive like I have, or it's on a slight incline, it does feel heavy. But that's just pushing it around. Once you're moving, as I've said, once you've got the engine spinning and the wheels are spinning, it's easy. That weight just kind of disappears. The weight is very, very low as well, which means that the bike, it does feel extremely stable, especially on motorways. You don't get blown around, but when you're banking into turns, it feels really precise, really stable. No issues there. Yeah, overall I'm really pleased with the bike. I just love the looks. I just love the way it rides. Because it's an all air cooled engine, it's just got that old school feel, especially when you put a pipe on it. It just gives you that visceral old school feel. Now, we're all different. Some of us don't like that, some of us do. You know, if you want a very precise kind of modern bike, you might not like this. But if you know, if you're the kind of person that you like the Triumph Bonnevilles, you like the Interceptor, you like the Bear, you like this kind of bike, you like cruisers, you like Harleys, and you want a cruiser, then this is a good option. Very good option. It gets a lot of attention, this bike, when I park it up. People want to have a chat to you, talk about the bike. Like I said, it does make you feel like a bit of a boss. You know, I get the same sort of feeling from this that I had when I had my Harley. Just makes you feel kind of cool. yeah, and that's what we want with our bikes. You want to feel good when we go out and ride. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving this thing. And what I have noticed as well is the more you ride the bike, the more miles you put on the bike, and all the components and the engine starts loosening up. It just rides better and better and better. When I took it out the dealer the other day, because I had it serviced a couple of days ago, and I rode it home, it felt like a different bike. It felt even better. So I don't know what they've done. I don't know whether it's just the engine just bedding in and loosening up, but everything is just working really, really well. So really pleased. So what I'm going to do in a minute, folks, I'm going to pull up and have a coffee, and then at the end, towards the end of the video, I'm going to talk about what I've done to the bike, the modifications, and why I've done certain things, and certain things that you can do to make the bike a little bit better. One thing I didn't like about the bike when I bought it, and this is very common, it's all over the internet, is the rear shocks are really, really firm, and it's quite jarring. So I knew that when I bought the bike, and when I bought the bike, having known that, having test ridden the bike, I purchased some Hagen rear shocks, and when they PDI'd the bike before I picked it up, I got them to throw on the shocks. And those Hagen shocks are a game changer. This bike is really comfortable now. Now, it's not adventure bike suspension levels of comfort. You've got to remember that this is a cruiser, and they're low to the ground, so you are going to feel things, but the Hagen shocks do make a night and day difference. Rather than being bucketed out my seat over every pothole and every bump, you just kind of glide over them. You do still feel the road surface, but you're not getting bounced around like you would do on the stock shocks. They are very, very comfortable. So that was another thing I didn't like about the bike, but it's something that you can easily fix. So just going through town, very slow manoeuvring. I'm just pulling up here while I'll go and get my coffee fix. And easily into neutral. Neutral's very easy to find on the bike. I know some bikes it can be a bit of a pain. Okay guys, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause things there. I'm going to go and have a coffee, and I've got a few errands to run, and then we'll get back on the bike and carry on. Alrighty. Howdy folks, back again. Just got my admin sorted and had a coffee, and we'll just continue with the review of the bike. So as I'm sitting there drinking my coffee at that table over there where the coffee cup is, just going on about the good looks of this bike, I've had about 10 people walk past the bike and stop and have a look, and a couple of them have come over and chatted to me about the bike, which is just a testament to what a nice bike this is, because it does make people want to talk to you, which obviously is a very nice feeling as a motorcyclist. You like people to like your bike and want to talk to you about it, talk about what you've done to it, that sort of thing. So, you know, it is a very, very good looking bike, and it does grab a lot of attention, which is very nice. But anyway, we'll carry on, bit more riding, and then I'm going to stop somewhere and I'm going to chat about the mods and all the things that I've done to the bike. What I'm trying to do with this review is just give you a good, honest, comprehensive review from an actual owner, not a test rider, somebody that's lived with the bike, owned the bike, has ridden it through a variety of conditions and weather and that sort of thing, just to give you an overall view of generally what the bike is like in all those conditions, etc., etc. So we'll just hop back on and we'll just carry on riding to the next spot, and we'll stop and chat a little bit more. Alrighty. Sun's come out, lovely day. Nice positive clunk into first. So here we go, just slow riding through town. As I've said, lovely and smooth, excellent fueling. And what I like about the exhaust is when you're going through a built-up area like this with buildings on both sides, that exhaust really echoes. It probably won't be coming through on the mic, because it never does, but trust me, this is a lovely sounding exhaust on this bike. Not too loud, but loud enough. There we go, bit of sharp braking there, and that was just the back brake as that lady pulled out. Yeah, decent brakes. You get some nice pops and burbles on the when you throttle off. So yeah, as mentioned, very easy to ride. So in order to bring you this review, I've just done some gentle riding around my local area, but I will try and do a little bit of a more spirited ride when we get out of this traffic, just to demonstrate that this is quite a fun little cruiser. It's a lot of fun to ride. You can ride it quite spiritedly if you want to. As you can see, really stable at those really slow speeds. Effortless. Here we go. Just lovely and planted on the road. So we have a tight little roundabout coming up here. Let's see how she handles. No problem at all. All right. Woo! Oh, that's a shame. Traffic light. But as you can see, she picks up and gets up to speed really quickly. Does not feel slow at all. There is plenty of power when you need it. A definite sweet spot, this engine. The engine's fantastic on this. So a couple of years ago I owned a Bonneville Scrambler 865. It made, I think it was about 59 or 60 horsepower. I can't remember the torque figures, but what I will say is, although that was a slightly more powerful bike, the ride on this feels very similar engine wise, and the way it handles, very similar to the 865 Bonneville, and that was also an air-cooled bike. There we go, nice pickup. Just got to be a little bit careful through here. Okay. And all you need to do is just lean it in and bank into those turns. And there's your 70. And it's got plenty more. Now this bike's got quite wide bars, which is really good for leverage. You just basically have to counter steer, just small little inputs into the bar, and the bike will turn. Like I've mentioned, it's not scalpel sports bike sharpness, but it's pretty decent. Pretty decent, so you can get a lick on and you can have fun in the twisties. So when you buy the bike, it obviously comes naked. I've obviously got an aftermarket screen on mine, and you do feel the wind a bit when you're going at higher speeds, but that screen that I've got, this is the Dark Marlin, does a really good job of just taking that wind off your chest, and then the air that you get around your helmet is clean air, so you don't really get any buffeting, not unless you're going sort of 80, you know, really quick. But for general road riding, very decent indeed. And again, at these slow speeds, incredibly stable. Now, can you filter on this bike, being it's quite wide? Yes, you can. So I've done a couple of long trips on the motorway where it's become quite congested, and you can filter quite easily on this bike. Obviously it's not a skinny bike, so you've got to pick your moments, but it can be done. I mean, on the whole, it's just generally a good all-round bike. Don't know what's going on here. And I can't quite see. Okay. Sorry about this, folks. Seems to be a bit of an issue up ahead. Well, I don't know what that was all about, but there we go. There, so quite an easy bike to manage through like a congested little bit of a traffic debacle there, but more than manageable on this. And again, we've got a tight turn here. No problem at all. More traffic up ahead. just leave it here. Okay, well, in that little portion I did try to ride a bit more spiritedly along those back roads, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how fun the bike is, the power, etc. So what we'll do now in a minute is we'll just talk generally about the bike and some of the mods that I've done, and then I'll give you a final verdict on the Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650. So I'll catch you in a minute.
So here we go then, guys. Super Meteor 650 in all her splendifery. So in this part of the video I'm just going to talk about the bike in general and some of the mods and things that you can do with this bike. So as you can see, my bike's been kind of heavily customized, really. So I'll start from front to back. Okay.
Oh, lucky Martha. It's because she has so much medication.
Whoop, excuse me. All right. So when you buy this bike stock, there's a lot of silver accents all over the bike, and the bike stock looks very, very nice, but I wanted to make the bike personal to me. So and I've got lots of other videos describing all the mods, so if you want to check those out you can. But I've painted this brace bar black, that was silver. I've added fog lights and a black bar, so the forks are black apart from here. So I've painted that sort of clamp black to seamlessly blend in here. I've also painted the headlight bracket black as well, that was silver. And also the headlight bezel, that was silver, so that's black. And I've obviously got a jet black screen on the bike. So when you look at the front of the bike, it all blends in, seamless black. I just thought it was a bit too blingy, there's a bit too much going on for my taste. So I've blacked all that out, and I think the bike looks a bit more stealthy, a bit more bespoke. Obviously these are still silver with the risers because that's how it comes, and I may have a go at painting that, but it's a lot of involved work, taking the bar off, etc. So that'll probably be a winter project. So I've just left that for now. So yeah, the fog lights, nice little addition. They're plug and play, really simple to install. Everything just plugs in. There's a port in the headlight where you just plug them into, and then you get a switch button there. They are very basic, they're just on and off, which I quite like. I didn't want anything with lots of different modes and stuff like that. The headlight on the bike stock, I mean, it's a decent headlight, it's LED, it's decent. It's not the best headlight, but it's pretty decent. But I do ride the bike at night, so I've added the lights just for a bit more visibility, and the lights are really good illumination, no problem seeing in the dark with those lights. And I mounted them at the front there because I think they look good with that bar. I know a lot of people put them on the crash bars, but I really didn't want crash bars on the bike, so that's what I've added there. So there we go. The screen, I've just talked about the screen. I like the screen, I like the shape, I like the size. It just, the lines of the bike, the way everything just curves, I just think it just complements the bike like that. Other thing I've done, if we go down here, I've added some aftermarket foot pegs and brake arm cover, and it's the same on the other side as well. the pegs from Royal Enfield, they're absolutely fine, but I just wanted to make the bike personal to me, and I found these online from a company in Portugal, Brazil, called Guerrera Customs Design. They have a little grub screw under there, so you can tilt the peg and tighten them down and put the peg at an angle which you want. Now, when you buy this bike, the brake is further down, so it's flat in line with the peg. And what I found was, when I was reaching for my brake, I didn't have a lot of purchase on my foot because my foot was flat, so I got the dealer just to raise up the brake lever. So now when I'm riding, all I need to do is just slide my foot forward and just dab with my toe, and that is an absolute game changer for the bike, the way it handles and the way it rides, because your peg is in the natural position you want it, especially if you have to haul up the brakes quite quick. You know, you're not hunting to find that brake lever, it's just exactly where it needs to be. So I would say, if you're going to buy this bike, that should be the first thing you should do. I mean, I know we're all different, but I'm average sized, and yeah, that brake lever was too low. It came down here somewhere, so I've got them to put that up there, so very nice. And then on the other side, again, just foot peg on that side. Now these are Motone, okay, just extended pegs. It's just easier with your foot. You're not, you know, your foot just naturally goes on them. And I've got one on the other side, and I bought these because they're shiny gloss black with a bit of a chrome surround on the edge. I just think it complements the bike really nicely. These are Tech. You can buy these off Tech Bike Parts. Very easy to install as well. There's a video, I just follow the video, and yeah, no problems. I've changed the horrible plastic brake reservoir for a nice chrome one, because there's a lot of chrome accents on the bike with the exhaust, etc., so that looks quite nice. Same with the oil cap cover, chrome one. I put a chrome clutch arm cover on there, and then just for a little bit of bling, I put a Motone points cover over this logo, Royal Enfield logo. Now that was one of the things that I didn't like on the bike. I just thought I don't like the logo. It's just too bulbous and big, but I think with that finned Webco inspired points cover, it just makes the side of the bike look really cool, and it matches all the silver bits and stuff as well. So there we go. Pipes. So I've got the AEW slip-on mufflers with the baffles removed. I chose these pipes, one for the look, because I really liked the look of the stock pipes on the bike. However, I just wanted a bit of a deeper sound, and these are slightly shorter as well, and I think they look slightly better, but it looks kind of like stock as well, and you get a nice sound from the pipes. Just going to the back of the bike, so I've added tail tidy from Tech Bike Parts, and that's combined with some Motone bullet indicators and a generic eBay special grille for the back of the bike. And the reason I put the grille on the back of the bike, because the front of the bike I've blacked out with the headlights, and on the light it's like a silver, so just to make everything match and blend in, I've put a cover on there, so the front of the bike is black, the back of the bike is black, basically. I've got an illegal number plate. I know it's illegal. I keep getting told, oh, it's illegal. I know that, but it looks cool, and it looks much better than a yellow plate. We'll just see how far I go before I get stopped, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. I've got a sissy bar on here, so when I had a Harley Davidson years and years ago, I had a sissy bar. They're just really cool. I think they look cool, but not only that, if you want to strap luggage to the back, they're just ideal. And I have had luggage strapped to the sissy bar, and it worked absolutely brilliantly. When you buy the bike, you get like a pillion pad seat here. I don't take a pillion, so I've removed that and just put a rack on the back. because just for my luggage, and I just wanted a solo seat because I think, like I've mentioned before, the curves of the bike, the way the tank flows into the seat and comes up onto the rear fender, looks really good. And a little rack on there just complements that, just gives the bike some really nice sharp curvy lines. So this is my aftermarket seat that I mentioned earlier. This is a Sahara seat. It's got a gel insert. Nothing wrong with the stock seat, very comfortable, but I wanted something a bit more bespoke and custom. I also wanted a brown seat because of the colour of the bike, and I'll talk about the colour in a minute. And I also wanted a tuck and roll stitch pattern, double stitch, just to give it that kind of custom look. So this seat, it's slightly narrower than the stock seat. The stock seat's a bit wider, and there's more of a cup for your backside. And the seat kind of, although you can move around on the seat, it kind of does lock you in place as well. So when you're going at higher speeds, you're locked in. You don't feel like you're flying off the back of the bike. But I think, yeah, that just looks very, very nice indeed with the brown seat. I've had a few little touches, like I've removed the passenger pegs and put some deleting plates on there. And on here as well, there's a big hole where that cover is. That's a Gemini bar end mirror cover, and I've just used that just to cover up the hole, because there's an unsightly hole there, and the hole is there really for aftermarket luggage supports and things like that, but I've just covered it up. I've got Motone pannier rails either side, and I've also got my Burley brand Voyager luggage saddlebag. So there we go. So I've added bar end mirrors, and because I've got a brown seat, I've got brown grip wraps. I couldn't quite colour match them, but what I have been doing is putting some dark boot polish on there every so often just to darken them, and I'll get there in the end. They will go darker as we go on, but I've also got the same bar and mirror finishes on there as well.
Whoa, that's nice.
Thank you. I've got my Beeline sat-nav mount there right in the middle, which is quite good. And these, just to finish off in silver, I've got obviously the dash with the tripper. I've never used the tripper. I did have a Meteor 350 a few years ago, just for a couple of months as a loan bike, and I never use a tripper on that as well, so I just use it as a clock. I don't really use it at all. What I do want to do is paint this, but I'll talk about more about that later because it's a bit problematic. This side of the bike, I've got my tool roll on the pannier support, and yeah, that is basically it. So looking at all angles, the bike looks really, really nice. So this is the Astral Green colourway, which was my favourite colourway. And when I was looking at which colour to buy, I normally go for a black bike, but I didn't like the Astral Black because in certain lights it goes very purple, especially in sunlight. It's not quite a black. If it had been a gloss or a matte black, I probably would have gone for it. So I chose this colour because I like the colour. In the sun it really pops. There's a nice metallic flake in there, but in dark conditions it looks quite black. But the other reason is as well, this luggage that I've got, I knew would look really nice against the green. And I've got a whole series of this luggage. So I've got a backpack, I've got a sissy bar bag, I've got a tank bag and tail bag, all in the same kind of style. And I do have a couple of videos on my channel where the bike is loaded with luggage, so go and have a look at that if you want to have a look. But it looks really nice on the bike, all the luggage. Very, very classic looking. So that's the reason I chose this colour, because I think it just looks really autumnly, earthy as well. All my kit as well, you know, my gloves and stuff, I've got a lot of black and brown boots and gloves and jackets and stuff like that, so everything, you know, looks really nice together. But there we have it, that's the mods. and we all like to do a few mods, but just talking about mods, you know, there's a lot you can do to this bike just to make it your own. You know, you can load this bike with luggage, and this bike performs just as well when it's loaded with luggage as when you don't have any luggage on it. Like I say, I've been on a tour with this loaded with city bar bag, etc., and it was absolutely brilliant. Very stable. But overall, I'm very, very pleased with the bike. It rides very, very well. For the money you pay for this bike, it's absolutely brilliant. The engine's brilliant, rides really well. So anything I don't like about the bike? Well, a couple of styling things. So although I really like the colour, I'm not too much of a fan of this. Although it does look nice, I agree it does look nice, I just feel it should have a tank badge because it's a modern classic, and all the other Super Meteors have a tank badge apart from this one, and I just think it would have looked better with a tank badge. Just my personal opinion. And on the back of that as well, I'm not a massive fan of this here. I wish it didn't have this. I wish it just had the piping here going around. I think that would have looked much nicer with a tank badge, basically. So I'm not quite a fan of that, but I don't hate it, if that makes sense. I still think it looks very, very nice, but I would have preferred a tank badge and a lot less writing. I don't like graphics on a classic bike. I just think it cheapens it a little bit. Again, I've talked about USB port, which is behind this side panel. Oh, I've got a DNA air filter behind there as well. But the USB port is there as well. I don't know why they put it there, because on the 350s and other Enfields they've got it on the handlebar. I just think they could have put it there. It would have been much better. So that's one thing I don't like. But other than that, you know, I'm just nitpicking really, because generally the bike is fantastic. I really am enjoying this bike. I've got no plans to change it anytime soon. I just think from every angle it just looks absolutely cool, and it gets a lot of attention. So, final verdict, do I regret buying this bike? No, absolutely not. I think it's brilliant. It copes in absolutely any situation. Anyway folks, I'm going to stop the video there because somebody's starting up a mower or something over there. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's given you a bit of a in-depth analogy of what the Super Meteor is like. Please like and subscribe. Thanks very much.
Hi guys, sorry it's not quite the end of the video because there's a couple of things that I forgot to mention, which I'll discuss on my little ride back home. So I've talked generally about the bike, I've talked about the modifications to the bike, but there's a few things that I would like to mention before we sign off on the video, so we'll get going and we'll just talk about those briefly. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is, I often hear on YouTube and on the internet this is described as an entry-level cruiser. Okay, I don't agree with that. I hate the term entry-level or cheap bike. When you talk about entry-level, the bike is usually A2 compliant, so 47 brake horsepower, and price. That is the only thing that is entry level about this bike, is it's affordable, and it's got 47 brake horsepower, but as I've mentioned before, it's got plenty of power. So let's talk about price. I would describe this as an affordable cruiser, not an entry-level cruiser. If you look at the demographic of people that ride Enfields, when they pull up to a cafe or whatever and they take the helmet off, they all look like me, middle-aged guys who have usually come down from more powerful bikes such as myself, because they don't feel they need all that power. And I can bet that those riders have been riding bigger, more powerful bikes all their biking lives. So to say that this is an entry-level cruiser, I think does the bike a disservice. Saying it's a cheap cruiser, I think does the bike a disservice. It is an affordable cruiser. This is just as good as your bigger cruisers. So like I've said, I used to have, back in the day, a Harley Davidson. I've had a Sportster, I've had a Dyna Street Bob, and I've had a Street Rod. And this bike is just as good as those bikes. In fact, it rides better than those bikes. So yeah, I think it's a disservice to say that. It just sort of cheapens the whole thing about the bikes. Now yeah, Royal Enfields are affordable, or some people say they are cheap, but they're good quality bikes. Their quality have come on a long way, especially in the last 10 years or so. So there's nothing I would say that's entry level about this bike, other than the fact that a new rider could ride this bike. I wouldn't recommend it, but they could. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to mention is just with the forward controls. They're brilliant, but what I will say is when you go at higher speeds on the motorway, you get a lot of air pressure on your legs, and that's just because your legs are in that position, and it can be fatiguing if you're doing a long stretch on the motorway at those higher speeds. When you're riding locally, as I'm doing now, up to 60, 70 miles an hour, it's absolutely fine, but 70 miles an hour and beyond, you do feel a lot of pressure on your legs. The wind kind of pushes your legs, and it can be fatiguing. But let's be honest, who rides consistently for hours on end at those speeds? Nobody really. So it's not a deal breaker, but just be aware that if you are on the motorway for sort of over an hour and you're doing those sorts of speeds, it can be quite fatiguing on your legs, just because of the way your legs are positioned. Also, just let this lady pass. Also, when it's raining as well, because your legs are forward, your legs do get all that water and rain, so from your knees down your legs are kind of quite soaked, but that's easy remedied with some waterproofs. So that's just the other thing I just wanted to mention. The other thing is the suspension on this bike. Although I've got the Hagen shocks and they are relatively plush, this is a really bad road that I'm on now. It's very, very bumpy. Now you do feel the bumps, you do feel the road surfaces, but I'm not getting bucketed out of my seat. So although the suspension is comfortable, and it is comfortable, even with aftermarket shocks, don't expect this to perform like an adventure bike where it's totally plush, because you will feel the road surface. Now in addition to that as well, I didn't mention the tyres on this bike. So the tyres on this bike are the stock tyres, the Seat Cruise Tech Indian brand, and I have to say there is nothing wrong with these tyres. So I've ridden this bike in all conditions, very, very wet, in the dark, you know, dry conditions, roads, and they're brilliant. They're a very hard wearing tyre. The only thing you have to do is, obviously when you're riding in the wet, is just ride to the conditions of the road. Just be a bit mindful. But you know, you can trust these tyres. They're good, they're decent. I've had no issues with them at all. yeah, the Super Meteor, it is a really good bike, folks. You know, very easy to ride. It handles really, really well. There's nothing really, apart from some of the nitpicky stuff that I've mentioned, that I don't really like about the bike. So if you just want a laid back cruiser type motorcycle, this could be a good choice. Now, a lot of people compare this bike to the Rebel 500 from Honda, the Kawasaki Vulcan 650. Now those bikes, they've got liquid cooled kind of sport bike engines in them, and this feels totally different. This does feel more like an Evo Sportster, or I'll describe it more as a baby Triumph Speedmaster, just in the way it kind of looks and rides. It's got a cruiser Sportster silhouette. It does remind me of the Harley Sportster, but when you look at the engine, it's got some of that Bonneville DNA in it. It looks quite Bonneville-ish. So my analogy is that if a Harley Davidson Sportster and a Triumph Bonneville had a baby, this would be the offspring. This is what their child would look like. So if you like that kind of thing, and you're into your modern classics, and you like a cruiser, and you like a laid-back riding style, and you're not too bothered about top-end speed and top-end sharpness in handling, but something that handles well and goes well, then this is a really, really good option, because it does everything really well. Really well. Like I've said, this reminds me very much of my Bonneville that I had, just in the way it rides. And obviously you're not paying Bonneville prices for it. So yeah, so if saving a bit of money is important to you, then this is a very, very good option, guys. And my advice is get yourself down and try one. So when I was looking at this, I also was looking at the Bear, and I took out the Bear, and that was a great bike, don't get me wrong. Sharper handling, a bit lighter, same engine. But when I got on this, I just absolutely loved it, and I knew within 5 minutes of getting down the road that I was going to buy the bike. It's just my kind of style. Laid back, lazy, but engaging. So overall, it's a damn fine motorcycle. It's got good aftermarket parts for it, good dealer network, affordable. I mean, servicing, so I've had it serviced twice at the dealer where I bought it from, which is an authorised Royal Enfield dealer. Now I know this is subjective because all dealers are different, but I think I paid £65 for my first service, which is just an oil and filter change basically, and then the £3,000 service is where they go through the whole bike, and that was 180 quid. And again, you get all your oil changes and everything. So yeah, I don't think that's too bad at all. So I'm going to wrap up the video here, guys, with just this little add-on. So that's the only time the bike feels quite heavy, is like things like gravel. You just got to be a little bit mindful. So again, as you can see, in a minute I'll show you. But pushing it on the road, this is absolutely fine. But when I push it onto the gravel with a slight incline, that's where you do feel the weight of the bike. It's not a deal breaker. But there we go. But there we have it, guys. Super Meteor 650. That is a handsome machine. Okay, guys. Right, this is definitely the end of the video now. But I hope that's given you a good, objective, honest review from somebody that owns the bike, has owned it for a year, has put a lot of miles on it, done all kinds of riding, all kinds of tours. Yeah, it's fantastic. Really good bit of kit. Really pleased with it. Okay. And on that little note, I shall bid you all good day, and I'll catch you in the next one.